In college football 25, it's critical to be able to have a couple safe hot routes that you always know you could count on when you need them. But have you ever wondered which hot routes are the scientifically best to use in college football 25? Because I've always wanted to know, so I've spent the past day running an experiment to find the scientifically best hot route in college football 25. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 different concepts that you can implement in any formation in less than 3 seconds. And not only that, but you'll also learn that 2 of them are way more effective than the third. Now, those 3 concepts are the curl flat, the comeback out, and the stay out. For this experiment, I ran all 3 concepts 50 times each. From there, I was able to collect stats like how many yards I was getting on average, my completion percentage, and a whole lot more. But before we dive into those results, you gotta know what routes I'm talking about in the first place, so let me show you. So let's say we're looking at the left side of the field. So this is the sideline, which means that the football is going to be over here towards the middle of the field. Now, in all of these situations, we are going to need 2 receivers. So here's our outermost receiver and here's our slot receiver. Every single time, no matter what, you'll always have a corner on the outermost receiver, and then you're going to have somebody in this range. It might be a safety all the way up here. It might be a linebacker inside, or for the sake, let's just say that there's going to be a slot corner, somewhat inside leverage of the slot receiver. Now here's the goal. One of the 2 defenders is going to have this flat area right over here. If it was cover 2, this outermost corner would sit right here and there would be a deep safety over top. If it was something like cover 3, this corner would get gone and this guy would have the flat. But either way, there's going to be one player right here that we want to put in conflict. Because all of this is all about conflict. For this example, let's assume that it's Tampa 2, so this corner is going to have this zone right here. That means this guy is going to have like a vertical hook on the inside, so he's going to be kind of over here instead. That means that if anybody goes towards him this direction, he does have him, but they're not going to run outside on outbreaking routes. Which means as long as we throw the ball outside of this guy is in conflict. There's 3 super easy concepts that you could do to put them in conflict. The first one is the basic curl flat, where the slot receiver does an instant 1-yard flat route and the outermost receiver does a 10-yard curl. That's going to put this guy in decision mode. He's either going to have to go back with the curl and therefore leave that open, or stay down on that and leave the curl open right behind him. Now, yes, there is always going to be somebody over top up here, but they have to respect that deep ball, so they're not going to be able to come down on that curl route unless you throw a really bad ball. And while all 3 of these concepts may be different, they all have the exact same goal. Because our second concept, the quick out and comeback, is the same thing, just a little bit deeper. Where instead of a quick flat, we have a deeper 5-yard out, and instead of a 10-yard curl, we have a deeper 15 to 18-yard comeback. Even our third and final concept has the same goal of putting this guy in trouble, where we have the outside receiver stay as the low option, and the slot receiver run a deep 10-yard out as the deep option. In all of these, this guy is going to have to choose. At this point, this is a total mess, but it goes to show that this guy matters. But what the heck? Let's see it in the actual game. So for this experiment, I went on practice mode as Tennessee, and I would choose a random shotgun formation and then immediately make those hot route concepts on whichever side had 2 wide receivers. Since it was a random formation every time, for the instances when there were 2 receivers on both sides, I would just do it to the right side. From there, I would alternate from all 3 concepts against a random defense every single play. Now, of these 3 concepts, the only one that actually exists as a play that you can call in Madden or College Football 25 is curl flats. I'm sure you've seen it before, and I used to think it was a pretty safe play to call, but I am wrong. Of the 3 concepts, curl flats average the least yards per play. When I ran curl flats 50 times, I was barely able to get 4.5 yards. Meanwhile, for the other 2, I was getting close to 9 yards per play. And while we're talking numbers, I could show you numbers. This is actually how all 3 routes compare to each other. So the horizontal line is how many yards you're getting each play, and the vertical axis is how often that's happening. In other words, those big humps that you're seeing at like 0 to 5 yards and 10 to 15 yards, that's signifying that those plays are happening a lot more than that 7-yard range where it's a little bit low. So as you can see, all 3 concepts have 2 kind of big humps on either end. One of them is the incomplete pass or the sack or the 2-yard gain, and the other one is the bigger gain when you tend to throw to that deeper concept. What you can also see though is if you look at that curl flat curve compared to the other 2, you could see a lot more often you are throwing that ball and getting 0 yards, 1 yard, or 2 yards. What's also interesting is if you look at the comeback out curve versus the stay out curve, they both have very similar shapes, but that comeback out curve is wider on either side, which means you're more likely to have really, really good plays with the comeback out, but also more likely to have really, really bad plays like a big sack. But it makes sense that they have that same shape because, again, we got about the same number of yards per play for both of those two concepts. Now, what I do want to point out is the difference in completion percentage between the comeback out and the stay out. The big reason why is because that comeback takes a long time to develop. I mean, it's a deep route, and because of that, you're prone to sit in the pocket for a while, and that leaves you susceptible to being hit while you're throwing, taking sacks, or even throwing interceptions. Meanwhile, the deeper part of that stay out concept is only a 10-yard out, so you could usually get that throw off a little bit quicker. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, even though they have similar average yards, is there one of those two concepts that's better than the other? And I do think there's a clear answer, because not only was my completion percentage a heck of a lot higher on the stay out concept compared to the comeback out concept, but also 4 out of my 50 passes when I ran the comeback out were interceptions, and that only happened once on the stay out. If you were to count interceptions as a loss of 20 yards, it would make it very clear that the stay out is a better play. Also, of all those plays, you got over 10 yards at about the same rate for both of them. Now, I will say that deep comeback is great for 3rd and long, or if you need a much deeper shot than that 10-yard out. Like, there were multiple different plays when I ran the deep comeback where I would get 25, 30-yard gains. But the way that college football 25 is built really is perfect for that stay out concept. And here's why. Of those two concepts, I ended up throwing that quick stay to the outside receiver all the time. I mean, probably 80% of the throws were to that guy. And at first I thought that's literally the dumbest route ever. The outside receiver is just standing there. But as I'm sure you know, the defense misses a lot of tackles, whether it's a computer or a real person. So when you would throw that quick ball to that outside receiver just standing there, he would immediately have a 3 or 4 yard gain, and a lot of times a lot more. Also, since the routes develop a heck of a lot quicker, there's not as many negative plays like with that comeback and out concept. Like I said earlier, you're holding that ball for so much longer for a deep comeback than for a 10-yard out, so you're much more likely to take sacks and have other bad things happen waiting for that comeback to be ready. However, 9 yards per play is fantastic in my opinion, so both of them are really good concepts. So it's important to know how to make these reads. For the comeback and quick out, the first thing that you should look for is that quick out. Most of the time, the defenders are going to sag off, and you're going to see that quick out get open very quickly. From there, it is your job to put that ball on him outside and as quickly as possible so he has time to make the catch and cut it upfield. That's part of the reason why the out route works a lot better on that play than the flat route of the curl flat concept, because that flat route gets to the sideline so quickly that if you're not on it immediately, it's like a kind of awkward 1-yard sideline catch. For the out route, you have a little bit more time to make that throw. Obviously, if you see people sitting in the shallow flats where that out route is supposed to go, that should immediately signal to you that, hey, that comeback route should be open. All you got to do is wait till he comes out of that break and again, throw it low and outside towards the sideline. However, there is a chance to take a deep shot with this concept. If they are ever in cover 2 and that cornerback is responsible for the flats, sometimes he will jam that outside receiver that's running the comeback and stay in the flats and play it really aggressively. You'll literally see that corner hit the receiver and then immediately run to that out route. And it'll create a gap that is so big between him and that deep safety that you don't even need to wait for the comeback to actually come back. You could just bullet that ball to the outside receiver as if he's running a streak. Now, it's risky and it's not technically how the play is supposed to work, but I'm telling you, it is so open sometimes that it should be thrown. But again, the most important thing is that that play takes a while to develop. So if that out route isn't there immediately, you gotta be willing to hold onto that ball for the comeback. But now to my favorite concept. The stay out is money, and it works a lot better when that slot receiver can run a 10-yard out instead of like a 7-yard out or a 15-yard out. The 7-yard out doesn't create enough of a gap between him and that stay route, so sometimes one defender can cover both of them. And if that slot receiver is running a 15-yard out, we have the same problem that we were having with that comeback where it takes forever for him to get out there. Now, you gotta be prepared to throw that stay route because you're gonna throw it a lot. There are 2 big things to know when you're gonna make that throw. One, you're gonna wanna bullet it and try and lead the outside receiver forward towards the defense. When you're making this throw, there should be nobody near him, so you can afford to actually push that left stick up and push the ball downfield. What that'll do is, let's say I'm the receiver and you're the quarterback, and I run the stay route, so I turn towards you, you throw me the ball. If you lead it up by using the left stick up, down that way, I'm able to catch the ball kind of at like a running start and use that rack catch and get downfield quicker. Also, it's a little bit about patience too. What you've probably already noticed during these clips of me running this is that those flat defenders will continue to drop and drop and drop to about 10 yards, and then they start coming up. So if you know for a fact that that stay route is open, sometimes it's worth holding onto the ball for just a fraction of a second longer to let those flat defenders get a little bit further away from them, so that way he has a little bit more space to work with when he catches that ball. For the the out route, I trust that you know how to throw an out route. Same thing, outside to the sideline, and you're only going to be throwing it when you see somebody come up on that stay route. So you obviously can't throw it super low back towards the line of scrimmage. But that's all I got. This was a really experimental video for me where I tried to blend college football 25, my background in data science, and a little bit of real football talk. If this was helpful or in any way entertaining, please let me know. And if it sucked, definitely please let me know, because I do want to make these videos as helpful as possible.